everyone, this is Greyshot17.
And Ace.
And today we're going to be going over Company of Heroes 2, pretty much an introduction to the Soviet faction. Now, the Soviets are an interesting case study because they, they are typically seen as sometimes the weakest faction, just because of their unit strength, but overall, I find them very good in their specialized units, so let's get into it. Also, Ace is going to be helping out with tips. He's the other player as the Wehrmacht, because those two are the original factions, so I felt it necessary to have them both there. In any case, this squad can make either the Special Rifle Command or the Sport Weapon Compania. Now, each one is different, so I'm going to go ahead and build both and kind of go over the strategies of both. But in the meantime, I'm going to also build conscripts. These are essentially the Soviet Union's frontline troops that will be used most often. That being said, even though that is the case, do not expect these guys to hold themselves up against grenadiers or Volkssquads, aka the frontline troops of the Germans.
With good micro, you can do it.
Yes, with good micro, but a standard fight, not necessarily.
You have a better chance against grenadiers than you do Volks.
What? I mean, yeah, okay. And just an example, Ace, of why I'm saying this.
Don't lie to the nice people.
Conscripts are not, like, the best frontline infantry unit you can get. Penals would probably be a better frontline infantry unit, but they cost way more.
It's only 60 more. It's 300 for a penal, 240 for a conscript. If you want to go more infantry-focused beginning, that's your best bet. But if you want your support weapons, the safe bet is to always go support Compania, unless you're experienced and then you can get away with it.
Yeah. So, yeah, Special Rifle Command, which I'm showing off first, you get three things. You get a sniper, you get a scout car, and you also get a penal battalion, which we're making right now. Usually it's a more specialized route, just because of the fact that these units are definitely a lot more difficult to control and to use rather than what you get from the support weapon Compania. Now, the reason I say this is the penals, while they are better infantry, they do cost more, and they don't have any of these abilities you get here. So they can't throw you can't throw any sort of Molotov cocktails, nor can you throw anti-tank grenades. So the only way these guys can be good against tanks is upgrading them with the PTRS rifles, and even with that, it's 60 munitions, so it can be very costly for these guys.
But their satchel becomes vehicle targeting.
Yes, only very close range. So typically, you'll see a lot of Soviet players use conscripts, and they'll get the upgrade for the Molotov cocktail and the anti-tank grenade. Usually, if you go focus on conscripts, you skip over the Special Rifle Command typically, because this would be your frontline unit of choice. And with that, here I'm going to capture some points. Remember,
don't underestimate the ability of conscripts to supplement your forces even if you have penals. Their Molotov is really good at clearing buildings because of flame, and its AT grenade is cheap and effective snaring.
Yes.
And really can help you out in a pinch.
Also, let's point out the fact that conscripts can URA, so they can increase their movement speed by quite a bit. So they can get around, let's say, an MG being placed or whatnot. Alright, so if you're capturing that one, I'll go to the other one. I don't want to engage you just yet.
Fuck out of here, bitch.
Any case, the Soviets also have a nice little bonus as well. Because of the fact that these are cheaper units, if a unit is damaged, you can merge it. So the conscripts can merge with other squads. So let's say the penal troops have 5 men in the squad. I can merge it into the penal troop and it'll act like a penal troop. So that's
Careful, you can lose the squad that way. If you only have one model in your squad and you do that merge ability, you'll lose the conscript squad.
That is very true. That is absolutely true. But it's a risk sometimes people take. But again, he has an MG in this building. We're just going to go around that for the time being and kind of go over some more basic stuff about the Soviets. The other thing, again, that these guys had that's also really freaking good is just the normal satchel. The satchel is great for killing bunkers. It's a very, very deadly. If you can stick to vehicles once you get the PTRS rifles, they are very powerful. They can cripple the heaviest of tanks, and that's usually what it's best for, just crippling large amounts of armor. Which is why if the enemy is focusing a lot on armor, penals are probably the way to go with and maybe one conscript squad to also throw an AT grenade to really pin them. Now, also to keep in mind is the fact that you will possibly have a issue with health going down, but unlike the Wehrmacht, where the health in your units will go down and you have to build a bunker. Here, all you need to do is build a field infirmary. This field infirmary back at base will heal your infantry and allow them to essentially get back their health, which is very, very critical. Very critical indeed. Now, speaking of which, about health and stuff you want to make sure you have health of, the sniper. You can see here, again, sniper took a little bit of damage. I'll try to get a little bit more on it. But this sniper is great just in terms of recon, because this sniper special ability allows for a flare. So that special ability will allow it to see further so you have additional recon. Now, I'll let him shoot my sniper a little bit. Alright. Sniper's damaged. He's going to run back to base. Again, I'm not really trying to play this game as I normally would. I'm just trying to show units. But while capturing all the territory so I don't have to wait 20 minutes for some stuff. You fired a rifle grenade, didn't you? I moved out of the way. Ha.
I did nothing.
So this could be an issue because of the fact, again, he has a unit in a building. It can really suck. But what you can do is very simple. I'm moving my scout car over, and this is a light vehicle you can deploy. And yes, I haven't deployed anything from the Spore Weapon Campagna. We'll get that in a moment. Now, the nice thing about it is this. So the scout car can move troops inside of it and move around. So if we get the penal troop and we move it down here, and again, we could upgrade it with the PTRS rifles, but just note that if you do, it increases anti-tank, but it decreases anti-infantry capabilities. So if you have if you have 3 squads full of PTRS rifles, you're going to have issues with the, what the heck? Oh, okay, there's a cache over here. My bad. I'll stop shooting that for you. But you're bound to run issues. So make sure you have a nice variety or other units to kind of cover the anti-infantry or anti-tank capabilities that you choose. Now, one thing the scout car is really good at, and please don't Faust it, I know you can, is let's say there's an MG in this building. I can get out and satchel it. Now, I want to avoid grenadiers because now you can. If you could be so kind. You really have to watch out for the Panzerfaust. So, with the Panzerfaust, it will essentially just really quickly kill your armored vehicle. Even if only one is shot, it essentially lowers it down so low, it's just going to cripple it. So you have to be very, very careful. Also, go back and get the base. We can see the sniper got healed. So the field medics did their work. It can heal a lot of squads very quickly. So it's always great to have these medics here to kind of help you out.
Be careful when you go sniper Soviet versus Wehrmacht, because the Wehrmacht does not have the side tech for their sniper. So now that I know he has a sniper, I can very easily get a sniper of my own to counter snipe his.
Yes, yes. A lot, and by the way, what he means by side tech, he means a lot of people just mainly go support weapons. That's the main strategy, though that's not the only strategy. A lot of
Soviets,
people,
for instance, have to choose to get a sniper. You willingly have to avoid support weapon. My first building grants me a sniper.
Exactly. Now, the support weapon Campagna, is what a lot of people will go, because they'll get MGs, mortars, and AT guns here. All of them good, all in their own right. But that being said, it also depends on what the enemy has. If you want to go an MG spam as the Soviets, it's fine. I will show you why that's not necessarily the best thing for you. But this is what I typically find this doctrine good at, is a lot of support weapons. Now you can say, Greyshot, wouldn't the support weapons be able to counter? And you can say yes, but the sniper specifically is great for killing German MGs because they're only 4-man squads. And then on the flip side, the scout car combined with the penal is great because you can get around bunker emplacements. That being said, you have to be very careful for grenadiers, because if they Panzerfaust you, you're gonna be stuck. Or if they push up too many troops with grenadiers and overwhelm your sniper, it can die very quickly. So you have.
And heads up, unlike the OKW, the Wehrmacht Panzerfaust comes in as soon as they have 25 munitions. They don't have to tech up for it.
Exactly. So always avoid. What's it called? Grenadiers with a scout car. Now, sorry, I was putting down something and I realized you can't place demos on capture points anymore, which kind of sucks. But demos, there's these things. Again, they cost 65 munitions. If the enemy gets close, they can see it. But what it's good for is, let's say, if you have something in your way, you can blow it up. Nice big explosion for you. Now, again, the Pioneer Squad can also be equipped with a Flamethrower or a Minesweeper. Minesweeper, again, decreases attack power, but you can spot enemy mines. Or other units such as a Goliath a lot easier. Flamethrower increases attack power. But just to keep in mind something, the special ability for the demo that you get for these engineers, I know a lot of people put them out in the middle of the open, and that's what they try to use them to hit blobs, but honestly, my favorite spot to place the demo is next to a building, where the enemy will be unlikely to see it. Why? When they put troops inside, which I know I'm not near you, I'm just going to do a test building around me, is I'll wait for them to come over, I'll pull my troops back from that sector, I'll wait for them to jump in the building, because usually a building is better for you, just cover-wise and just overall attack power, especially for MGs. And then, boom, the building is completely destroyed, and any units inside also immediately die. They can't retreat, and they will just simply perish. So, again, use demos wisely. You can put them out in the open, but they're highly likely to be spotted. My favorite is just putting them next to buildings and blowing them up. Also, you can build barbed wire, but it's only some infantry will be stopped by it. Others can just shoot through it or just get vehicles to go around it. The other thing that these Soviets excel at is mines. I love the Soviet mines because they're very cheap. I can get an upgrade for 28. I know it's 30. People say that's kind of worthless. I don't know. I kind of like not having to waste that. But in any capacity, you can build mines all over the place. And these are very cheap and very powerful. They'll automatically cripple armor. They'll hurt at least 2 infantry squads guaranteed. So, again, if the enemy sniper walks on it, it's dead. If the Grenadier squad only has 2 guys on it, walks onto it, it's probably going to die. Not guaranteed. Sometimes they might only get 1, but typically it's a 2-man squad that will instantly get KO'd. So, it's always great to have. Especially also if you a blob walks onto it, multiple squad members from different squads can be affected. So, let's say you have 3 squads of 4-man guys walk onto it. They can lose up to 6 men. Nice. But in any capacity, yes. So I'm placing mines over here just for an example. And yeah, you can see here aces. Just being so kind. Just so kind. But anyway, so yes, I highly recommend placing mines, especially because the enemy, you can use it to your advantage for holding back blobs, pinning armor, and or just causing the enemy to get a minesweeper, which can be a lot more difficult than you think, because a lot of people just forgo it or don't care for it until it's too late. Any case, let's go over some of the support weapons, shall we? I'm sorry, real quick. I'm putting a bunch of fuel caches. You can build fuel and munitions with the engineer squad. So just take note, and of course the engineer squad you use to tech up. So that you have to build buildings. There's no battle phases with the Soviets. It's just teching up with the buildings. That's how you get better stuff. But you have to go one by one. You can't skip it like the Germans can. Anyway. The support weapons Campania has the Maxim, the Mortar, and the AT gun. Each unique in their own right. First off, the AT gun I love. Why? Not only is it a standard AT gun, which in itself is good. I would say it's not the best AT gun for anti-armor, but what it lacks in, let's say, additional points against armor, it makes up for in artillery. So let's see. Let's say that truck I don't like, I can spend 35 munitions and just fire an artillery barrage at this sector. This is by far what people, especially when these Soviet AT will use this a lot for just long-range artillery that they can hit. It's also really, really powerful versus infantry. I've wiped squads with that AT gunshot. It is incredibly powerful. Right, Ace?
Extremely powerful, Greyshot.
All right. Well, I'm just trying to kind of reinforce the fact that some people might not believe that a Russian artillery piece is good artillery. But
you mean a Russian AT gun?
AT gun, thank you. Can be good for artillery, but by God, it definitely has that. Now, to kind of also follow up with the sniper's ability, the Mortar is your standard Mortar, plus it has ability for recon. So I can deploy a flare, which you can see it's firing off, and I'll go over this territory, and I'll be able to see what it is. The enemy can't shoot down the flare, they can't take it out, but I can identify the enemy's defenses over here. So you can see here the enemy has a half-track, which, oh my God, that tiger skin looks really cool. We have a Mortar over here, an AT gun, and an MG. Now, he might move up to counteract me, but I can always move up my AT gun to kind of counteract him. And, of course, move over my conscripts. Do a blitzkrieg, a little blitz over Uvra, and try to throw some AT grenades at him. Now, the flamethrowers, again, are very deadly. Why is my AT gun not hitting anything? Oh, it's hitting the defense. That's incredible. That's incredible. But in any case, let's get the next building up while we go over the last units. Oh my god. Anyway. Remember that thing's range does not outrange the AT gun.
But I can kite it around the AT gun.
Yes, he can kite it.
Again, it's like we touched on last video. Don't assume unsupported hard counters can just kill something. You always need to support your stuff. AT gun needs to be supported with infantry. Infantry needs to be supported with AT. Tanks need to be supported with infantry. Artillery needs to be supported by fortifications.
Yeah. If you can, never send something out by itself. Always have support. The other thing I should probably bring up. Oh, by the way, the mortar. The German mortar, at least for the Wehrmacht, typically can overwhelm the Soviet mortar. There's more powerful mortars you can get, like the 120. But the reason is because they counter barrage. They can really focus down and knock out the mortar. So always just be very cautious about that. The Maxim, Ace, how would you describe the Maxim?
Maxim is one of the lowest tier MGs in the game in the sense of suppression and damage.
It's probably second to the MG34, right?
No, MG34 is really good. The strength of the Maxim is its squad size and its maneuverability. They are easy to set up and move around, but unlike the MG42, they are not the best at holding straight lines.
Yeah, so you can see here the arc of it is actually not that grand compared to the MG42 of the last video, if you saw that, where it literally has like a larger range. It is a lot more close quarters, smaller of an arc, but that doesn't mean it can't suppress. The nice thing about the Maxim is quick maneuverability, so you could actually reposition it very quickly. So that's the one positive thing about it. But that being said, if it can easily be overwhelmed, and typically, unless you do a spam, which is popular with the Soviets to do like a diamond formation with 3 or 4 MGs, that's something you do have to keep in mind and watch out. Now he's trying to push, and to be fair, I should have retrieved that unit, so he's probably gonna make fun of me for my
unit preservation, my guy.
Yep. But I'll show you the satchel that I can throw onto the half track, which you can see right now. Boom, bada bing. Got it. His Ostman's going to survive. But managed to knock it out. And I could have killed the Ostman. I rather want to kill the half track because fuck that half track. Anyway, like I said, the MG can be good. It's just, again, a lot of these weapons, they're good. But if you want to make them great, you really have to master their specials, if that makes sense. They're not just going to default do well, if that makes sense.
Combined arms. Always remember combined arms.
Yes. So while I'm building the last building, let's look over.
And don't leave half health units on the field so they get wiped out easily, as you just saw.
Yes, exactly. So in any capacity, let's go over some other units.
I wasn't talking to the viewer.
You're talking about me.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And well, of course, the viewer can always take that note. But in any case, let's go over some of the lighter vehicles. This is from the Tankoya Battalion Command. And by the way, we're just going over the base units, because that's what most people are going to deal with. Anyway, so the half-track, the light tank, and the Su-76 assault gun are all stuff you're going to have to deal with in this group. And you have to build this building to get to the mechanized armor Campania. So you have to go down it. That doesn't mean you have to get a unit from it, but a lot of people will be like, well, if I already have it, maybe something useful. And to be honest, if you're a good player with some of these units, it could really help you out. And let's go over a couple of them to kind of explain why. The half-track. Now, this thing looks like, oh, Greyshot, why the fuck would I get this? It looks like a pretty weak vehicle. Now, it does have 2 nice abilities, and we'll kind of go over that really quick. The first thing it can do is transport troops. You can put guys inside. Isn't that cool, guys? You can transport guys in the transport half-track. But you can transport 2 squads, and if you want to do a flanking maneuver or quickly maneuver around the battlefield, you can use it. Though, I will say that a majority of the time, what people really use this for is actually healing. So, if any of my guys are hurt, I can use this half-track to reinforce my guys, similar to the German half-track. But that being said, they get theirs a little bit sooner. So that's one issue that you have, is typically the Germans will already have that tactic going by the time you get yours out. So just keep in mind. The more important thing I find, although if you're trying to lead a charge and you need to reinforce, the half-track's great for it. But the other thing this half-track's great for is a little thing called its AA attachment, which is an anti-air package that gives it 4 meat choppers. Weird thing.
It is. Probably the best AT gun in the game, or anti-aircraft gun in the game.
Yep. Oh, and it used to be the worst, which was hilarious. But they upped it so much in a simple patch over the years that it became the best. It's insane. Anyway, you can go back to my older videos and see how many of these damn things I had just to shoot down one plane. It was crazy. But I'm glad they patched it in now. It's a good anti-air gun. Even though, do you figure that, I don't know, this thing would be probably less powerful than, I don't know, the Centaur or the American half-track. But I digress. Going over the T70 now. The T70, nice little light tank. It's mainly good against vehicles. I'm sorry, not vehicles. Infantry. Though it can be good versus light vehicles, depending. Some vehicles...
Not the greatest versus light vehicles.
No, I would say it's good against, again, because the light tank and these that the Germans have, which is the Lukes, and the Scout Car and half-track.
See, they can do a Scout Car and a half-track. A Lukes, it's up in the air.
I would say typically I find T70s can fight a Lukes.
They can fight it, but they don't hard counter it.
Yeah, that's very true. Compared to the Stuart, this is not designed for. But what it can do that's also good is recon. And you actually can notice that a lot of Soviet units have recon abilities. And that's what the Soviets kind of edge on. They have a lot of recon abilities to sight the Germans because they need at least some advantage. So I can see that Maxim before it can see me. And then I can use that to be like, hey, Mortar, you want to take that sucker out? And that's free, by the way, to go in this mode. But it can't fire. That's the problem. Once you get up to Vet 1, it can go into recon mode to capture points. So technically, you could have a large amount of Soviet armor going around and capturing territory. Which can be very effective. But like I said, its main purpose is killing infantry. And that's where you see it excel at a lot. Is it can just pop shot infantry. So just kind of example, we'll just kind of move this thing up. And let's see what he has. Just as an example. Oh, he has a bunker. Now, again, it's not great for fortifications, as we'll just... Oh, boy. Oh, fuck. Oh, no. Haha, it's still alive. Ah, damn it.
No, it is not.
Alright. So, yeah. It's a light tank, so it can't take that many shots. So, be wary about that. But if you use it to support and not send off by itself like I just did, and like we keep saying, don't send stuff off by itself, you'll be doing pretty well. Now then, let's talk about the last unit in this group, the Su-76. And this is another unit that I have a tendency to see be blobbed a little bit, and kind of like the Stug, it's a cheaper tank destroyer. But unlike the Stug, it once again has a special ability not really designed for armor. It has
less armor on it. It's more of a glass cannon than the Stug.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. But I think it is cheaper than the Stug. So
it is cheaper than the Stug, yes. Well, how much is it?
It's well, I'm sorry. It is 75 fuel, 280 manpower.
Yeah, that's 250. That's 25 fuel less.
But you can see I'm using a decent amount of artillery to easily push that area back. Also, I can stop and focus fire on armor, of course. Wow, you really made a bunker line. You are very happy about that bunker line. Now, again, it's really good against armor of the lighter variety, not so much the heavier variety. Simply because of the fact that a lot of times it will bounce off like the heavier stuff. So you have to be very, very cautious about that. Nope, let's move back before we lose that unit. But in any case, so that's a lot of lighter stuff. Again, this thing in mass can hurt like Panthers and such, but like the Stug, it can only fire straight down its sight. It can't turn. So if the Panther or a large amount of armor flanks it, or even a Puma, which is technically something that in a straight 1-on-1 fight, the Su-76 should win against, but the Puma can just go around it and speed it, so it can't be hit by it. So that's just something else to keep in mind. That a lot of the Soviet stuff may not be the best in a pure speed combat environment. You really have to make sure that you snare or stop their armor, whether mines or AT grenades or satchels, etc. Just keep that in mind. Now then, let's get to the last building, the Mechanized Armor Campagna. And this has a lot of units that personally are some of my favorite in the game. first off, let's get with the base unit. The one that, of course, is well known for this war, the T34. Now, T34 is cheaper, by the way, than a lot of other tanks. It's 300 manpower and 90 fuel. So it's the cheapest out of the medium tanks, but it is the weakest of the medium tanks. Unless, Ace, you have something you want to say about that.
It's cheap, but goddamn is it versatile.
That's the big thing. You can get a stronger variant of the T34 85 variant instead of the 76 variant, but that's through a commander focus. But with the T34, like you just said, it lacks in, firepower or armor because, by God, also take note that German anti-air guns can actually hurt and kill this thing. If you attack a German, let's say, half-track, an AA1 of the OKW, we'll get to that later, there's or an Ostwind, yeah. There's
Ostwind's an actual tank, though. But a T-34 can still kill an Ostwind. It's not a hard counter.
But what I'm saying is it will still hurt a T-34. Whereas, let's say, a Sherman, you'll see a lot more bouncing. Or a Panzer IV, you'll see a lot more bouncing. Not so much.
You can use a T-34 to hard counter an Ostwind. An Ostwind supporting can do damage to it, but it's not huge.
I'm not saying it. Again, like as I state.
I'm just making sure people don't get confused.
Yeah, I'm making sure. Yeah, Ostwind will be beaten by a T-34, but the T-34 will still be hurt by an Ostwind comparatively than a Sherman or other Soviet or other Allied units that have better armor, like a Cromwell or something along those lines. Well, typically it can take a few more. It doesn't do as much damage against it. So T-34, the poor sucker takes a lot of hit. Again, also, if the guy is mortaring you, just take note of it and kind of anticipate that and just move out of the way. But the T-34, even though it's that you can use its speed, which is actually pretty damn good, to kind of go around and to overwhelm stuff. The other thing you can use it for is a really cool ability, which I will kind of waste here just randomly.
You could have asked me to put out the tank.
I mean, I was kind of looking for the tank. I was hoping... Oh, there it is. Hello. As you can see, I just ran this tank. Now, what's that going to do exactly? That's going to pin it. And as you can see, it blew its engine. So right now, it's going to reduce its speed. Versing heavier armored units, such as a Panther and or a King Tiger or something like that, it's not guaranteed even close to damage its engine, but what it can do is still pin it, and a lot of great strategies would be then calling in an airstrike or an artillery strike or something on a crippled tank. So
and ideally, you never want to ram it from the front. You want to ram it from the side so it can do more damage. There is a chance for it to completely cripple a tank.
Yes. So take that in mind. T-34 may not be great in a direct combat, but you can use that to, once again, support other units, and you can do a hell of a lot more than just it solo. The other unit we'll go over real quick is the Katusha. Now, the Katusha, in my mind, is probably the best artillery unit in the game, for at least mobile rocket artillery. I mean, yes, the Stuka has like a notorious record for being more powerful, but comparatively with the Stuka, Panzerwerfer, and I guess through Collins you can get also a Calliope, and the British really it's just priests and stuff like that. But
and a Sexton.
Yeah, but the Light Mattress is more infantry based. The Sexton is just another priest variant, and the Calliope is essentially just a more armored, though maybe too long lasting artillery shot in my opinion. The Katusha is just like a jack of all trades of everything. It has actually a good speed to it, so you can actually pull stuff back. Maybe not as fast as the Panzerwerfer, though, but it's still pretty damn good. It can't take hits like a Calliope, but again, as long as you keep it back behind your base, you're relatively fine. But the main thing is this rocket barrage, which it doesn't matter if you're firing really close or really far. If a rocket hits an infantry unit, that infantry unit can definitely have a lot of issues, because it could possibly just one-shot an infantry unit. So just an example, we're going to just blast this unit over here, which I think he still has his mortar. Oh, nope, he moved his mortar over. Wow, you have a lot of bunkers.
No, I don't.
Uh-huh. I see all of them. Oh my god, you are absolutely placing tons of bunkers. You son of a gun. But in any case, as you can see, I use its max distance. And again, if I get closer, the rockets will get more grouped up and will hit a target. But even with that, it still managed to do damage against all those targets pretty damn well. So I do recommend the Katyusha, especially versus blobs. Oh my god, it could definitely do a lot of damage versus blobs. But that being said, once you fire, make sure you move out of the zone. There's that Panzerwerfer we mentioned earlier. The other unit we'll go over is the Su85. Also, I should probably, real quick, the Katyusha Special Ability Veteran 1 is a Creeping Barrage. I don't really use this.
No one really uses it.
Yeah.
No. The problem is it'll fire in one spot to move down the line, but by the time you fire your first volley, you can just immediately move it out.
Yeah.
It's not very useful. Against emplacements, I could see being more useful because it's more condensed, but you're not going to fight a lot of emplacements as the Soviets unless... I mean, you're really not, actually.
Yeah. It's just one of those things. Just be wary about. Let's see. And then the last unit we have is the Su85, which, in my opinion, is probably one of the better tank destroyers in this game. If not one of, like, top 3. Am I wrong by saying that, Ace?
I argue it's the best one in the game. Has good line of sight, can extend its line of sight.
Yes.
Good damage, good penetration.
So I'm extending.
It can take on a Stug, a Jagdpanzer. It does better than a Firefly and a Jackson.
So
I argue it's the best.
So I can extend my range right now, as you can see, and hit that Panzer IV without even be able to fire at me. And what a lot of people do is they'll do those creeping shots where they'll just fire a shot or two just to push back armor. Now we can easily move up the pack because the pack can hit me with that range, as you can see right there. But once again, it's just one more tactic you can do to just kind of keep the enemy back. And that's what you kind of really need to do with the Su85 is just keep the enemy back, because the Germans have more armor. They have more, what's the terminology I'm looking for? Their units are just better overall.
They hit harder.
Yeah, they hit harder too. So you
but
really
not necessarily. Soviets, you bring in a lot of good units as well.
The
Su85 is a really good counter.
Yeah, the Su85 is great for just keeping stuff back, especially if you can just pulverize it. But I'm thinking like a Panther Rush that kind of flanks a lot of your Su85s because you can't turn its turret, and especially in this exit in focus sight, it's a while to turn and move. It's slower. So that's something you really have to watch out for. Wow, it's like, hello, Brumbar. But in any capacity. Yeah, so that's something you do have to watch out for. The other thing to also bring up is the fact that Su85's armor is still not great. I mean, it's pretty good, but like all Soviet armored vehicles, it can take a few more hits. So you really have to watch out with, like, artillery. Like, I've crippled with the Stuka a group of Su85s. Like, and typically versus armor, the Stuka bomb is maybe not as effective, but whatever reason against Soviet armor, I typically find that I can do a lot more damage with it. Do you concur with the statement, or am I crazy?
Katyusha's pretty good.
No. I mean, like, enemy artillery doing more damage versus Soviet armor, especially the medium variety. Like, I'm thinking of like the Stuka, the walking Stuka, or something along those lines.
It's all kind of really. Katyusha can do damage. The Stuka does an okay amount. It's just one of those
I'm not talking
things,
about the Katyusha. I'm talking about the Stuka against, let's say, Su85 or T34.
It'll do some damage, but it won't do too much.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is it's a more vulnerable compared to, let's say, the I see what you're trying to do.
I don't know the answer to that one.
Yeah.
So I don't really keep track of that.
Yeah, I that's what I've noticed through replays and stuff like that. Like, a Stuka bombing strike will just hit 2 Su85s in a row and just take out 2/3 of their health. So just be very cautious with that. Because again, a lot of people will just keep them in place because they're meant for sniping. So watch out with artillery. Now then, I think that's all the units. Unless there's a unit that oh my god. Yep. All right. Possibly here. I just saw a recon.
Nah.
Which also, we might get a little shot of the RNG gods with this AA gun shooting it down, then immediately crashing into one of my units. Come on, you know that's gonna happen.
Yeet.
Wow, it didn't actually crash into my units. That's insane. I'm very surprised. But is there anything that you would go over? Wow, okay, nice kill. Is there anything that
for the Soviets, very strong. They have really good doctrinal abilities, which we didn't go over. But,
yes, but I'll go over that later.
Their core units, while are slightly underpowered compared to mainline German units, with combined arms, can put up a great fight.
Yes, but they're more specialized. That's the thing I find with the Soviets. They typically are a little weaker, but they, comparatively to other armies, but they are more specialized. So an Su85 and T34, you're not going to find a main battle tank with them, but unless you go through commanders. But on the flip side, if you can use their specialties right, they are a force to be reckoned with, and that's something you really have to watch out for. But that being said, it's whether you use it correctly is the weather thing. I would say it's definitely a little bit harder than the German faction to play as. A lot of the allies are, but if you can master it, it can be pretty damn good. But overall, that's it. Do you want to do one climactic battle before we end this?
You're welcome to.
Oh, you son of a bitch. Okay. Alright. That's fine. I'll advance and kill you. That's fine. I'm gonna, ladies and gentlemen.
That's the thing. Don't let a Vermach sit on his ass all the time. He'll just build up, and up.
I don't even want to know how many defenses you've built. I really don't. It's
a lot more than you think.
It's gonna be disgusting, isn't it? It's gonna be disgusting. Up, sniper, retreat. Oh, you bastard. Oh my god. What have you done? What have you... No, literally nothing. That's the whole point.
Yeet.
Once you lose the unit, you're not allowed to get another one back.
I'm fine with that. I'd already called in the main thing anyway.
Oh, you bitch.
I was actually hoping to lose a tank.
If we see a tiger, I swear to Christ. And once again, if you have a tiger, you know what? I mean, if you're gonna do that, then I'll gladly even the score. Where are you?
Yeet.
Yeet. Enjoy. Totally not overpowered. Totally not overpowered. Totally not overpowered. Yeah, this commander is incredibly... that rocket strike is very, very potent. So, if you want to do this to your enemy, possibly, yeah, use the anti-tank Overwatch. We'll go over that over commanders. But otherwise, it's been Greyshot on 7 and Ace, and let's go talk about commanders. Thank you once again, Ace. Hello everyone, this is Greyshot17, and time to go over the commanders of the Soviet faction. Now, once again, this is going to be a slightly different update to the previous Soviet faction guide I did. So I'll kind of go over the updates that have gone up, and some major ones, and some of the new commander changes that have happened over the time. Advanced War Tactics. This one, again, you get radio, which it literally notifies you, hey, the Germans have a tiger, better watch out. You also get upgrade T34 with the 85 variant. Conscripts have a short range upgrade. They can also repair and cervix strikes. Overall, not bad. It has a lot of useful tactics. Sure, it's not maybe one cohesive unit, but there's enough doing enough to where it can kind of all kind of even out. And also, it's enough positive things I can say that I would recommend this. Moving on, we have the anti-infantry tactics. The KV flamethrower has been changed. You can see the picture of the KV is different from the last KV without picture that was there, which helps kind of also symbolize this is a flamethrower unit. You also get shock troops with this, recon, fear propaganda artillery, incendiary artillery. But the big thing about the KV-8, the reason why I went also main tipping point of this is also it got an armor boost, so that it's maybe not perfectly, but it's closely resembling a Churchill in terms of armor and survivability now. So again, it is a very powerful tank. Shock troops are great close range versus infantry, and they got small I believe, 30 manpower decrease, so now 360. Recon overflight's great for recon. Fear propaganda is great for blobs and pushing them back, and same thing with incendiary. So overall, this is great if your main focus is brutalizing infantry or holding on to point. I would actually say this doctrine's great on games in which it's like you have to control a certain point, because you can use the fire and the fear propaganda to keep enemies back, plus you can use the KVA flamethrower to keep stuff back, and you'll shock troops to capture territory. So I highly recommend this if you're going to try to capture or deny points, especially with infantry. It's great for stuff like that. Armored Assault. This commander I enjoy because of the fact of the amount of armor, plus the amount of armor you can quickly get back up. Combine that with the radio intercept, and you essentially have an idea of what the enemy is going to deploy, so you know if they have Panthers, Stoogs, etc., or even a Tiger. You know what they're going to deploy, so you can adjustly pick out T34s or an IS-2 depending on what you verse. And you can say, Greyshot, what do you mean? Wouldn't I just go with the IS-2? Well, maybe not. Maybe if you know that they're deploying lighter vehicles sooner, you may want to be like, all right, I'll get T-30-45 quicker. That way, at least I have armor on the field. Or maybe they deploy Panzer IV and they're like, I can't wait for an IS-2. Stuff like that, where you know they're deploying armor earlier. If they aren't, then it's like, okay, cool, I can save it for an IS-2. Whatever you end up doing, at least you have an idea of what the enemy is doing. The only thing is the Stormbrick Strike hurts infantry more so than armor, but I can see why. At least that kind of counteracts the really heavy dominance. Plus, the vehicle repairs gets armor back up really quickly. So this is great for really armor focus, identifying enemy targets, and also keeping infantry back if you really need to. But overall, really good doctrine. Meanwhile, conscript support tactics. You get the KV-1 heavy tank. This is different than the KV-8 because it doesn't have the flamethrower. It has a better gun because the other one is also a 45mm gun. This is a 76. That being said, don't expect this thing to fight a Panther. It's a KV-1. Yes, it can, in some scenarios, especially with a lot of support, take on Panthers and such. But even though it's called a heavy tank, don't think of it as a heavy tank. Think of it as more of a damage soaker. That's really its design, because its main gun is weaker. It's about the same as a 76 variant of a T34. It's okay. It's not amazing, but it's okay. Combine that with the conscripts and rapid conscription. This doctrine's fine. I would put it more in just like an okay. Not good, not bad, just okay. There's enough there where I'm like, it could be useful, but not enough. I don't think really rapid conscription or anything really or conscript repairs kind of make up for it. But that's just me. That's just me. Now we come to the glorious. I'm not going to spend too much time, because if you know my channel, you know I love this doctrine. B4, I literally behind me have an anime meme made out of the B4 howitzer. So, I mean, there's really not much I can really say. The B4 is just awesome if you can use it correctly. Combine that with the shock troops and 4 Mother Russia for close range combat, the KV-8 for damage soaking with the Su85's counterattacking. Again, there's a lot of great stuff here. I could use every single one of these commanders in sync, and it works beautifully. So again, it just depends. That being said, if you don't care about luck, this doctrine may not be for you. But if you don't mind a little bit of RNG, this doctrine can do you wonders. Defensive tactics. Okay, I don't care for this doctrine. I think this is bad. The tank traps, don't care. People can get them, especially because that's, again, it's taking, like, the anti-personal mines. Why would you get this? Because in my opinion, just get a normal mine. Dushka machine gun, great, you got a better machine gun. That's one positive, along with the heavy mortar. But the 45mm AT guns are terrible. They are atrocious. I have rarely ever seen one be deployed, just because people just don't care for them. So yeah, this one is more of an avoid. Guard mortar coordination tactics. This one's actually pretty good. I would actually recommend it because you get the heavy infantry with the guards and the mortar. Vehicle repairs are great, especially healing the T-30-45. Though if you want the most repair type of commander, we'll get to that in a little bit. And mark target's great for kind of evening the playing field, because you can use that against a Tiger and or a Panther, and the T-30-45 can either meet or have a small advantage against the other target. So just a heads up. I would definitely recommend this. It has a nice wide variety, but a really, really good sync, so I do enjoy it. Plus, it's, as you saw in my replays, if you do watch my replays, it's one of the most used commanders, so just pointing that out. Guard Rifle Combined Arms Tactics. This one's okay. You get a KV, you get the guard troops, close range conscripts with the PPSHs, the Howitzer, which is long-range artillery, and the Sternvik Strikes, which mainly fight infantry. This one's okay. If you personally can use this stuff together, great. I could see definitely people using the guards with conscripts for like infantry and armor, KV8 damage soaker, howitzer to counteract stuff. There's enough here where I would still say I would give it a recommendation. It's just not something I would use. Now we have Lendlease. This one can be very good. That being said, the highlights are the M4C Sherman, which you can deploy for your own guys, which is essentially a Soviet Sherman, which is very powerful. You get the Dushka machine gun, which is easily the best machine gun the Soviets have. It's their special. It's great. It has a great suppression, automatic armor piercing rounds. It's wonderful. Allied spy drop, you can drop down also with fuel, but again, if they have AA, you have a chance for the plane to be shot down. The half track is great because again, you can deploy some units with as well as getting the half track, and the conscript pairs are just a nice bonus. Overall, it's a good. I've seen this used a lot during my time. My only concern is the M4C Sherman. I don't think it's the powerhouse it once was. It was incredibly overpowered at one point, but now it's not really. I think it's just okay. But I would still give this one a recommendation, especially with the fuel. There's enough good things here that I would. I just think that maybe it's not as good as it once was. It's just putting it out. Mechanized support tactics, this one is very good because you get the IL-2 bomb strike, which is good against killing fortifications or enemy fortifications such as artillery or stuff like that where it's built. Mark target, again, decreases the effectiveness of heavier armored tanks, which helps counteract the Germans' like heavy armor reliance. Guards rifle, good against armor. Anti-tank, good against armor. ISU-152, good against armor and infantry. So if you really want to kill tanks, this is actually a good one. Or fortifications, it's really good. You just need recon, really, for the IL-2 bomb strike to really help. But you can always like crash a T34 into a Tiger and call an IL-2 bomb strike in, and that's a good combo. So whatever you end up doing, guards rifle could also button, but I think a T34 smash lasts a little longer, so you may want that. Now let's get to the most overpowered doctrine in the game right now. NKVD rifle disruption tactics. And I'm not joking when I say this is overpowered. You get the KVA flamethrower, the radio intercept, that's all stuff we've seen before. But Relic changed this commander and added a few new things. The commissary squad, it's good. I would say that. It helps boost conscripts. It's not overpowered per se. You get a special call-in to make people retreat. I do recommend it. It's not that expensive, and you get a nice wide variety. It's just really good for like large amounts of conscripts, kind of boost them and help defensive, because you actually activate special abilities to boost or help conscript squads out. So I do recommend that. Scorched Earth policy. This one is a little interesting. You can see here, engineers can place traps on friendly points, but denies resource generation when triggered. So that can be an issue. Sure, you can deny them the point, but then also you don't get it. So, yeah, it's one of those, like, positive, negative things. If you find that ability to be good, great. But, I don't know. I could see being an issue. Though, if used correctly, I see potential in it. But, again, the reason why you're here, the reason why this thing is overpowered is the anti-tank Overwatch. It's 200 munitions, and the barrage is so quick, so deadly. It's like zeroing artillery, but it only targets vehicles. It is insane. It will kill vehicles very quickly, and has become probably the best doctrine unnecessarily to kill armor. I'm not even joking. The anti-tank Overwatch is incredibly powerful. I expect Relic to patch this quickly if they don't do so in the next like week or so. It is incredibly powerful. Now you need recon for it to do well, but dear lord. So if you want a really overpowered doctrine, by God, pick this. But enjoy it while it lasts, because this is only going to be there for, I'm assuming, a short period of time. Same thing with the British bombers, same thing with any other doctrine that was introduced, commander that was introduced, and they realized quickly, this is slightly overpowered, and changed it shortly thereafter. So just as a heads up, I do think this doctrine, even if it is debuffed with the Overwatch, is still good overall with the KV8, Scorched Earth, etc. So I do recommend it. Partisan tactics. Okay, this one is a double-edged sword. I like it because you get a bunch of infantry. They can deploy behind enemy lines. So you can kill stuff. The problem is, and I feel like a lot of people, when I watch people play this, usually fall in the same rut, is even though, again, they have stuff to either weaken armor with Spy Network, or mark target, or identify where targets are with Spy Network, or radio intercept. So this is a great intelligence doctrine to really know what the enemy's having without necessarily using direct recon. The problem, and the biggest problem I find, is people sacrifice partisan after partisan after partisan and use so much of their manpower that eventually they have no army. And before you say, oh, Greyshot, what are you talking about? I have tons of replays that have people just spam out partisans constantly and then they just have nothing. So just be very careful with this. Don't have your own army. Use partisans sparingly. If you want to use them on front lines, great. But just remember, don't keep sacrificing them because they only last so long. Shock Mortar. This is very similar to it's the one over here. The mechanized support has a couple differences. Again, we can see that instead of the guards and the AT crew, you have the armored vehicle detection, the shock troops now, and conscript repair. Otherwise, the L2 bomb strike and the 152 is exactly the same. So again, just take your pick which one you like more. Personally, I like this one a little bit more with the guards and the marked target than rather the shock troops and the repair. But take it or leave it. It's really on play style. But they're very, very similar. This one, shock rifle, is probably one of the most used, if not the most used Soviet commander I've ever seen, or currently being used. Dare I say it's also probably one of the most popular. And the reason why I say this is because it is fantastic. You get shock troops going against infantry, incendiary barrage, again, very good. The AT ambush is fine, but it's kind of like the Verkan warfare. You can hide in, pop up, and take out enemy forces without them necessarily seeing it. So it's good for a rapid barrage where the enemy is unsuspecting to it. The KVA flamethrower is great against infantry, as we said, but IS-2 as well. You add that as cherry on top, and by God, you are in for a world of hurt if you're fighting this. Overall, I will say that this doctrine is mainly predominantly against infantry. It's not so much against armor, but that being said, it is still incredibly powerful if used correctly. So if you're a newer player, this one I highly recommend before you get into some more commanders that are a little more tricky. But it's really good. And even a lot of the people I've seen on 1v1 games go it, and it's, again, very good. Soviet Combined Arms. This one, again, a little interesting because essentially this doctrine is very similar to the one over here, the mechanized support tactic, except instead of the 152, you get the howitzer, and instead of the marked target, you get a recon plane. However, this one is good for countering fortifications. Now, why do I say that? Recon's great for identifying targets. The howitzer is great for knocking out fortifications, and the L2 bomb strike is fantastic for countering fortification emplacements, stuff like that. So I highly recommend this if you're going to try to counter emplacements, a lot more so. Again, you have a good AT defensive, not saying that it should be discounted, but this is really freaking good for countering fortifications, so I highly recommend it. This one, Soviet Industry Tactics, this one is very interesting in terms of a ability that no other Soviet commander has that literally can turn the tide of the war or your battle, and that's the repair station. The repair station will heal so quickly, and I'm not even joking, will heal armor so quickly, especially if you see a lot of them, and by God, people will spam a lot of them, that the allies can quickly and astonishingly deploy multiple armored units, get them healed, and put them back in the battle in an astonishing rate that the Germans literally just cannot deal with, especially if they're good with unit preservation. Just healing constantly of the allied armor and deploying them back in will save possibly minutes of time just repairing, which will allow them in the fight doing more damage and possibly allow them to win. So take note that is a very, very powerful ability if done correctly. You also get the KV8 and also a KV2, which is great against infantry and armor if you use correctly. The vehicle crew repair training, you could use that, but really you want to use the repair stations. And the allied supply drop's fine, but it's mainly just getting fuel. This commander was very, very different from its inception. I believe it had more reliance on fuel than manpower, but they kind of changed that, and I changed it for the better, in my opinion. But overall, yes, it's very, very powerful if done correctly. So I highly recommend using this doctrine if you want to be a very supportive team member and heal a lot of allied armor very quickly. Anyway, now we have the Soviet Reserve Army. We get partisans, you get close range conscripts, conscript repair, rapid conscription, and then you get a howitzer for good measure. If you want to go an infantry game, this is pretty good. And again, you can always deploy partisans behind enemy lines, kill a Stuka or something, fortifications as well, fire upon the enemy fortifications. So it's pretty good. Once again, I still have to say, watch with your troops. Don't just needly sacrifice them. Again, I know there's rapid conscription here, but still be very, very careful with that. But overall, good commander. Not great, but good. Soviet Shock Army, another one I see a lot. You get, again, the shock troops and the heavy mortar, so it's a good combo there. Conscripts, that's the only thing about this. You get the assault package, so the PPSH is given to the conscripts, but the thing about that is if you already have shock troops, that's 2 units good close range. I feel like that can be contradictory for having both of them equipped with close range weaponry, but that being said, take it or leave it. You get the howitzer, and then also get the IL-2 bomb strike, so pretty good abilities. Overall, once again, a good, very well, it's used a lot that I've seen, but I feel like some of the abilities are a little contradictory to each other. But if you like close range units, this is the doctrine for you. Now you have the Tank Hunters. And this one I originally would have put as the more powerful of the anti-tank commanders until this sucker came out. NKV Rifle Disruption just blew it away. But overall, this is still a very powerful doctrine if used correctly, because conscripts get PTRSs, my apologies on that, and they are very effective at killing armor. You also have light mines, which I don't really use. Again, just use the standard Soviet mine, you'll do great. You also get tank hunters, which again, good for ambushes. Howitzers, good for fighting fortifications, though originally it was supposed to be a B4, and I personally would have preferred the B4. That way, B4 Chan would have spread her love to other commanders. But for now, she's only with one commander. So that's fine. That's fine. Any case, we also have the tank bombing run, which is great for hitting armor and infantry. It's, again, devastating versus armor, but can hurt infantry as well if used correctly. Overall, this is a great doctrine versus armor and fortifications, and I highly recommend it for that use. Any case, terror tactics, once again, predominantly focused on infantry. If you need to kill infantry, this way you do. Fear propaganda, KV. Again, you do get the IL-2 and you get a KV. You get some other stuff, but overall, this is very good for killing infantry. Plus, you get a howitzer and IL-2 bomb strike for good measure. So again, recommend it. Pretty damn good. Now we get another commander that was changed, the urban defense. You'd be asking, well, how they changed it? Well, instead of getting rid of the dopey AT gun, they kept it. But instead, they allowed you to get the KV-2 assault tank. So, hey, if this is for like, hey, we have to put in this weaker unit to make sure you get the best unit, I'm like, fine, deal with it. You get the booby trap territory, makes it harder to capture it, which I like more because, again, you put it down, they try to capture it, and they just blow up. You don't have to worry about resources. Fort assembly is also very, very powerful if used correctly. Buildings are always destructible, so you always have to watch out for that. But again, being able to reinforce, heal, and also gain a little better defensive bonuses for being in the area, pretty damn good for having the headquarters there. But in any case, that's it. It's another great doctrine, highly recommend it. But that's me going over all of the commanders for the Soviets. Hope you guys enjoyed. Again, be cautious with what bulletins you pick. Make sure you don't pick something stupid like faster deploy by 10% or something like that. Make sure it's something that it's a bulletin that you use for the Soviets and will probably use a lot of. But otherwise, it's been Greyshot17 going over the Soviets. And tune in next time where we go over another faction of Company of Heroes. Or you can just check out one of my replays or my Play of the Weeks or any of my other content. But otherwise, it's been Greyshot17, and I'll see you all next time. Hello everyone, and before I go, I want to give a special shout out to Rifle, JP Val, JustThomasPlays, jrchicklis, Streakingwookie, Matthew Leppen, Milam, Onlyplayapples, WhiteHotD, sgtMcPain, Ollie, Delta, Joey, Ace, Jordan Savat, RASpawn, Nathan Angus, Aaron Yee, Tim, and of course, Leo Lou. Thank you all for your amazing support, and I'll see you all next time.